Hello everybody and welcome back. As always, I'm Mateo311 and this is your channel for everything VR related. Today, we're taking a look forward into what 2025 has to offer us VR gamers. Now this is primarily a list of confirmed games, but I will sneak some rumors and hardware information in towards the end. There are of course links and timestamps if you want to skip ahead, but before we jump in, this video is brought to you by my long-term sponsor, Kiwi Design. If you're looking to make your Quest headset much more comfortable, or you want a top-of-the-line battery pack for up to 3 hours of extra gameplay, well then I highly recommend their brand new K4 Boost head straps. It's now available in both traditional and Halo strap versions, and not only are they cheaper than what Meta has to offer, they're also way more comfortable with some extra plush material. There's a link to Kiwi down in the description, and don't forget to use discount code Mateo311 for 5% off and to help support my channel. So I have roughly 20 games on today's list, plus 4 pieces of hardware. I'll be going through these in no particular order, so let's start things off with a title I'm excited about, Arken Age. Arken Age has you jumping into an action-adventure title that features both some physics-based combat and unique gunplay. They're promising a 15-hour campaign with a high level of replayability, an interactive storyline where you uncover the secrets of an alien world, plus a unique weapon crafting system. Now this game is launching right around the corner and I'm getting more and more excited because the game is starting to give me some Stormland vibes. So if you're interested in learning more about this game and you're not already subscribed, make sure to do it now because I promise to cover the release of this title. Now sticking with the action-adventure genre, we have Pirates VR Jolly Roger. Now I remember seeing footage of this game years ago and thinking it looks way too good to be true. You'll find yourself stranded on a remote Caribbean island, and of course, like normal, it's hiding some dark secrets. You'll not only be trying to survive the elements, but you'll also be battling some undead pirates. Jolly Roger is promising to be an epic journey filled with some absolutely stunning graphics with a nice little comic relief pirate at your side. And it's another game I'm planning to jump into as soon as possible. Now if you want to leave the island behind and find yourself stuck in some caves, we have Crave. Designed to be the most realistic and probably the first VR spelunking game. It plans to focus on true-to-life mechanics where you'll need to chalk your hands, use a hammer and axe to bypass obstacles and properly climb on some surfaces, and you'll also need to maintain your gear if you want to survive. So it looks like they're leaning much more heavily on the game's mechanics rather than cheap scares or an epic storyline. Now the climb VR was pretty awesome, so while this isn't exactly my type of game, I'll still remain optimistic. But now to completely change things up, let's get lost in a virtual world inside of a virtual world with Cold VR. Cold VR takes the overall theme of super hot and pulls a 180. Rather than enemies only moving when you move, you need to keep up a high pace to slow down time. I've already played some beta versions and it shows a lot of promise, so I'm absolutely pumped for this one, and it's also planning to deliver a trippy little storyline with some nice surprises. Now continuing on with that Black Mirror type of theme, we have the interactive movie Human Within. Human Within plans to show us the consequences of uploading someone's consciousness into a digital world. It combines 360-degree stereo filming with 6-star 3D environments. The storyline branches off in multiple different directions based on the choices you make, and by the end you should feel like you are part of an epic storyline. Now I'm 100% pumped to try this out, but I'm not sure if you guys would want me to cover this on the channel. If you do, let me know down in the comments right now. But if interactive storylines are not your style, how does some air-to-air combat sound? Aces of Thunder plans to bring the thrill of aerial combat by combining simulation mechanics with high-fidelity graphics. This is a World War II flight sim featuring over 20 different planes that was built from the ground up to give you a highly immersive VR experience. You can feel free to utilize the virtual HOTAS or your full sim rig if that's your style. I'm keeping my fingers crossed for this one because it does look pretty damn cool. Now I wouldn't say our next title looks cool, but it definitely looks unique. The Midnight Walk is a claymation stylized creepy journey through a world of wonder and terror. You'll have to outsmart an array of monstrous creatures who look even more terrifying with that claymation stop motion style. It's really unsettling in the trailers, and I'm wondering what this will be like in VR. And the unsettling atmosphere continues with Pools VR. This is basically a walking simulator with top-tier graphics and a super creepy and highly immersive atmosphere. There's no real puzzles to solve or enemies to battle, it's just you navigating this unique environment. Now if you don't think this sounds like much, go check out the reviews of the flat version on Steam. It's listed as overwhelmingly positive, described as utterly compelling, and best of all, it's under $10. But if that nightmare's not for you and you crave a storyline, I'm happy to finally get the release of Wnderer Fragments of Fate. After multiple delays, this time-traveling, story-driven puzzle-adventure title is finally set to release in early 2025. I played the original version of the game over a year ago, and it's already an epic and extremely challenging experience. This remake is updating the graphics, a bunch of mechanics, and giving us some additional content. The overall production value on this title is also top notch, so if you're someone who gravitates towards the AAA experiences, you should definitely put this game on your wish list. But now we're jumping back to horror games, as a classic title is being ported to VR. Slenderman the Arrival is basically a cult classic. It introduced a new iconic villain, and I originally live streamed this game with my wife over 10 years ago, and we were left needing a pair of diapers. Getting chased by the gangly Slenderman is going to be so much more terrifying in VR. Now, if you've never seen this game before, it's basically a walking simulator where you travel through some creepy environments, and every once in a while you have to run your ass off as the Slenderman starts chasing you. Now, if you prefer to fight back against hideous creatures, we have Zombie Army VR. This is a brand new experience set in the Zombie Army world, where you need to battle the remnants of Hitler's army, which have now become zombies. The campaign is fully playable in co-op, and it also has that iconic Sniper Elite X-Ray kill cam. Now, I originally played this at Gamescom, and my experience was actually pretty different than what I heard from a bunch of other YouTubers. Yes, the inventory system was a bit archaic for what you expect from a VR game, but the overall gameplay was fun, and it felt like an action-oriented version of Sniper Elite. Now, my demo was only 40 minutes, but I also didn't experience any odd bugs during that time, unlike what I heard reported by some other people. So my fingers remain crossed on this one, and I'm still hoping it'll be a fun time to play through with a buddy. Now, to jump away from the whole horror theme and overly brutal combat, let's move into the VR port of Roboquest. This is an absolutely beloved, fast-paced, first-person shooter roguelite that originally released on flat screen in 2023. Flat the VR Studios got their hands on this one, and now they're bringing it to VR. Now, the game features that cel-shaded style of graphics that always looks really good inside the headset, and while I'm not super excited for yet another roguelite, this game has already proven itself to the flat screen community with overwhelmingly positive reviews, so this is yet another game that I can't wait to experience. There's also 2-player co-op in this game, which is another big win. But let's slow down the pace with the board game title All On Board. Yet another game that I experienced back at Gamescom. All On Board is planning to be your go-to tabletop simulator. Currently, they have 6 licensed games, including Rallyman GT, Escape the Dark Castle, The Hunger, The Binding of Isaac 4 Souls, Terraforming Mars, and Istanbul. They're planning to add a lot more games over time, and it also includes the classics like chess and checkers. The title's also playable in mixed reality mode if you want to go for a more authentic tabletop feel. But now let's get back to the action with a game that's been in the works for years. Into the Darkness was promising to be a first-person shooter with Boneworks-like mechanics. Now, I played some early builds a couple of years ago and thought it needed a lot more time in the oven. Well, I'm glad to see the studio agreed and never stopped working on this game. If they could pull off the whole Boneworks mechanics with an actual single-player story-driven first-person shooter experience, then we should have a win on our hands. The game does showcase a lot of promising features, but when I played it, it just didn't feel right. So hopefully overall this time they've been able to smooth out the rough edges, and we'll now have another big title on the way. And speaking of big titles, Hitman is getting its 4th attempt at a VR version. After 3 less than completely successful ports of Hitman 3, the PlayStation VR 2 is getting Hitman World of Assassination, and let's hope they finally do this epic stealth title some justice. If you're not aware of what marred the original ports, it was everything from broken mechanics, massive bugs, performance issues, and finally some horrible graphics. So like they say, the 4th time is the charm. I don't know, fingers crossed, but oh my god, it's so hard to be optimistic. My optimism does, however, skyrocket with Gunman Contracts standalone. Let's leave the stealth behind in this John Wick-inspired first-person shooter. This was originally an absolutely fantastic mod for Half-Life Alyx, and now the developers have moved it into a full title for both flat and VR players. It promises to deliver some top-notch action, all while being extremely realistic, gritty, and brutal. This is easily one of my most anticipated games of 2025, and I will definitely be covering this one. Now, next up, we have a game that I already covered, but that was its PlayStation VR 2 release, and questers are still waiting on Alien Rogue Incursion. This is an action horror-themed first-person shooter set in that iconic Alien universe. You'll be battling swarms of xenomorphs, the occasional ultra-creepy facehugger, and there's a few other surprises in store for you. Now, I thoroughly enjoyed my PlayStation VR 2 playthrough, but it did lack a little bit of polish, and gets a little bit grindy towards the end. Hopefully these extra few months clean up the Quest version, because I'm sure plenty of people are gonna love this one. And speaking of love, one of my all-time favorite first-person shooters in VR, Vertigo 2, is getting a brand new DLC. Enter the Aether is an interdimensional traveling story expansion for this title. They're introducing some new tools for both traversal and defense, and you can expect plenty more of the game's typical zaniness. For the first time, you're also taking on the role of mad scientist Brian, so it looks like this is stacking up to be another fantastic release of 2025. Now, before I switch into hardware news, I just want to mention my most highly anticipated title that's yet to be confirmed for this upcoming year. Resolution Games has promised us an officially licensed D&D experience. And that is basically all the information we have. I expect it'll take on a gameplay mode similar to their previous experience Demio, but there is absolutely zero information out there, and trust me, I'm constantly trying to get some news. I wouldn't be surprised if we end up waiting longer than 2025 for this one, and when we first heard the announcement that Resolution Games was working with Wizards of the Coast, that was just when they signed the deal and nothing was in production yet. I don't care, I'm willing to wait more than a year for this one, but if someone successfully combines VR with Dungeons and Dragons, you might never see me again. Okay, so now let's jump into the confirmed hardware of 2025, and I'll use that term confirmed with air quotes for our first item. Pimax is back, and this time they have their Dream Air. The company that was known for always giving us a really wide field of view was like, nah, forget that, let's just go tiny, aim for the size of the big screen beyond, but make sure it looks like the Apple Vision Pro. Oh yeah, and throw in some Quest 3 controllers. This is Pimax just being Pimax yet again. They can announce they're going out of business, and I wouldn't even trust that at this point. They're constantly announcing new headsets before their last one even released, and even after they release a headset, it's usually months to even years before all the features actually work. So I think the Dream is the perfect name for this piece of hardware because Pimax continually sells us hopes and dreams. But let's hope they prove me wrong, actually deliver this in May, and it's a solid headset. Now, the only truly confirmed piece of hardware is coming from Samsung and Google, as we're getting the first Android XR headset. I don't expect it'll vary too much from something like the Quest, but the best part here is there's new competition. While exclusive titles are a pain in the ass, this does have the potential to be a nice boom for the overall industry, and a good old-fashioned console war does have some nice overall benefits to the consumer. While I completely respect and love what certain companies like Meta and Valve have done for the industry, my loyalty remains to the best overall experience. Whatever I like or dislike, you guys will end up hearing about. And speaking of likes and dislikes, let's just round this video out with the last bits of hardware rumors. The Valve Deckard has been a rumored device for years now. This would be the sequel to the Index, my all-time favorite headset out of the 18 I have owned. Expectations are this would be similar to a Steam Deck with x86 VR capabilities. That means not only will it be able to play flat Steam games, but also Steam VR titles. It's also expectedly a standalone headset with a robust connection for pcvr if you want to use it in that way. Now, generally, the rumors in this industry are dead on, and they've also been speeding up lately, centering around the concept that something is actually in mass production right now. So if all the stars align, I expect we'll see some hardware from Valve as early as May. And finally, we have some rumors for VR's forgotten child, the Apple Vision Pro. Obviously, the near $4,000 headset was not meant for the mass market, but it did give the company insight into what features they need to keep and which ones they could scratch. The expectation is we could see a new version that slashes the Pro off the title, and also the price tag down to around $1,500. Now, while this headset definitely wasn't for me, I will say it is the hands down best mixed reality experience out there. The panels are insanely sharp, there's basically zero latency in pass-through mode, and the control interface works extremely well. In multiple different ways, it really does feel like having a laptop strapped to your head. But let's hope they're able to drop the price and wait on the next version, so we once again have another real competitor in the XR industry. And that right there was today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know down in the comments what you're most excited for in 2025. If you enjoyed this, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and if you're new here, please consider subscribing.